Shalom.
Shalom.
This is Awake Wisdom Ministries. We do thank and praise the Most High, Ahayah, His Son Yashayah, and Holy Spirit for this opportunity to be in front of you again today. We do
yes, thank you, Most
thank the Most High again for this opportunity to be on for another Bible study.
Another lesson.
We're going to be studying Luke 14 tonight. This is a beautiful day here in Jacksonville, Florida. We thank the Most High for giving us another opportunity to bring the truth. Before we go into our lesson, I have something a little bit prepared.
Please send donations to josh.lavia@gmail.com. Please send your donations, whatever you can afford, without hurting your own income. We sure appreciate it. Thank you.
Before I show you, I just want to make sure.
Moonlight across the ocean. We was not like COVID, so like stock tried to
Shalom to the masses and all praises to Ahayah. That's the I am that I am of Exodus chapter 3, verse 14. In the name of Yashayah, that's my Savior in Hebrew, which is Yashayah, who the world calls Christ, through the Holy Spirit, which is Kakamawat. That's wisdom. Proverbs chapter 8. Like to first greet y'all with that as I come through and allow to give y'all a new lesson on the Willie Lynch letter. Now, the reason I'm going into this again is because I realized that the Reprobate Society 3, one of my lower view videos, but it has a lot of hard-hitting truth. I just wanted to let the masses know that it's not a video where I'm bashing, or cussing y'all out. Y'all know how I get down. I try to give y'all the truth as Ahayah has presented it to me in these last days about our people and our curses, or our law, I should say, and the curses that came upon us from not following that law, and how we should operate in these last days, and how we are operating is completely backwards to what the Most High has intended. So y'all sit back and relax, and if this video doesn't go in depth, it's only because I've already touched it. This is just another exposure of it for those that haven't seen it, or those that may think that the video is something that it's not. It's an expose, but it's not a bash session. So with that, we're gonna get right to it. You see this picture here shows black people think that this is a playground. Now, some people may take offense at that, so be it. But this is about, like, if you've seen the movie Friday, which most of my brothers and sisters have, you see the brother Smokey. Brother Smokey, again, very talented, very lovable character, but he represents a lot of our people today. Just want to get high, drink, smoke, and be merry. And the thing about it is, it's something serious coming down the pipeline that most of us have no idea about. Mm-hmm. And part of mind frame that we was living in back then that was pressed on us through aspects of the Willie Lynch letter.
That's right.
So without further ado, I just want to get right to it. Okay. And also, this is not a white or Esau bash session, but this is an exposure of white supremacy. Mm-hmm. Understand white supremacy and those that follow it and adhere to it. Okay, because yes, a lot of white folks do follow and adhere to white supremacy. Some of them unknowingly do so, not knowing what white supremacy is. We're going to touch a part of it here. Again, this is just an expose, just dealing with the Willie Lynch letter, okay, and how it affected black society, but as far as white supremacy, it affects all societies. I just want to let y'all know that. Just like Hitler threw his own people under the bus, because Hitler was Jewish, okay? He was of the Rothschild family.
So, and all this is very important to understand, because people buy that Holocaust narrative that the government teaches you, when this was all a political game to get sympathy for people who have no right to a land in Africa. Okay, Hitler was a Rothschild.
And they control all our federal politicians. Look at that.
Okay, so this is so Hitler was Lionel Rothschild's grandson. Okay, so we understand that all these wars and all these wars are what we call this fronts for a greater scheme. These wars are not based in, you know, this and that, what the government puts in front of me, what they set up.
That Donald Trump in these last days is going to throw white people under the bus. He already has, but it's going to get worse. You think that this gun control thing is just the start of it? It's going to get worse, because the thing about gun control is this: my forefathers were not just sold for money, but we were sold for guns. You understand what I'm saying? And they understand that if you're dealing with the unarmed people, then you don't have to worry about the resistance.
European service.
Okay, not telling y'all to go out there and shoot and fight.
Slaves could be part of a master's family, own land, and even rise to positions of power. But when white captains came offering manufactured goods, weapons, and rum for slaves, African kings and merchants had little reason to hesitate. They viewed the people they sold not as fellow Africans, but criminals, debtors, or prisoners of war from rival tribes. By selling them, kings enriched their own realms and strengthened them against neighboring enemies. African kingdoms prospered from the slave trade, but meeting the Europeans' massive demand created intense competition. Slavery replaced other criminal sentences, and capturing slaves became a motivation for war rather than its result. To defend themselves from slave raids, neighboring kingdoms needed European firearms, which they also bought with slaves. The slave trade had become an arms race, altering societies and economies across the continent.
Okay, not telling y'all to go out there and shoot and fight with the, with the powers that be, but I'm just saying, having armor to protect yourself is biblical, and it's just mentally smart in the end of the argument. So let's get right into it. So I'm going to read from the Willie Lynch letter, okay? Now, this speech was delivered by Willie Lynch on the bank of the James River in the colony of Virginia in 1712. Lynch was a British slave owner in the West Indies, okay? A lot of our brothers in the West Indies, shout out to y'all. We got a lot of our lost tribes over there, okay? He was invited to the colony of Virginia in 1712 to teach his methods to slave owners there. The term lynching is derived from his last name. Just real quick, show you right here, the origin etymology of lynch is first known use was 1835. This is from the Merriam-Webster dictionary. So 1835, that's over 100 years after he made this speech and in this letter that he wrote. Okay, so I just need y'all to peep game, for a second. Everybody that's listening, okay? Because the thing about it is, this system that's built behind this was first put on my forefathers, but sooner or later, it's going to be put on the masses of society. It's just different now. But slavery is definitely not over. I'm going to prove it to you as I go through this lesson. Okay, so this is December 25th, and I find it also odd, I don't mean to keep stopping, but that this letter was wrote on Christmas. Christmas is not a biblical holiday. Christmas is a pagan celebration of the false god Nimrod and the fake virgin birth of Tammuz. Okay, I covered that in previous videos. Feel free to go to Hebrew Tribes and look them up if you haven't seen them. But I just find it odd he writes it on this date, and we break our necks to try to give our kids gifts and do everything else on this date of December 25th that is not the birth date of the Messiah. But it reads, "Gentlemen, I greet you here on the bank of James River in the year of our Lord 1712. First, I shall thank you, the gentlemen of the colony of Virginia, for bringing me here. I am here to help you solve some of your problems with slaves. Your invitation reached me on my modest plantation in the West Indies, where I have experimented with some of the newest and still the oldest methods for control of slaves." It's key here. I want y'all to listen to this next sentence. It says, "Ancient Romans would envy us if my program is implemented." Now, two quick notes here. First note is, you see, he's in the West Indies, so he's not in America. The 48 states are the other states that they took over. Okay, most of the slave ships did not hit America, brothers and sisters. So you need to think twice before you say somebody is or isn't Israel, because if you do your research, most of the slave ships went to South America and went to the islands and went to Mexico. So you need to look up about information about the Negro, Latinas, and the Taino peoples, okay, before you say anything. All right. Second thing is, he says ancient Rome would envy us if my program is implemented, because he was a descendant of ancient Rome. The ancient Romans never went anywhere. Okay, they're just the European rulers of today. Okay, so you see this picture right here. The bitter thieves talking about, oh, should we return the gold? Why don't you return the Negroes too? Return us too. You know what I'm saying? We'll read from the book of Josephus, chapter 14, verse 7. "But Cassius, as he fled from Rome to Syria, took possession of it and was impeding to the Parthians, who by reason of their victory over Crassus made incursions upon it. And as he came back to Tyre, he went up into Judea also, and fell upon Trichike, and presently took it, and carried about 30,000 Jews captives, and slew Cothelius, who succeeded Aristobulus in his seditious practices, and that by the persuasion of Antipater, who proved to have great interest in him, and was at that time in great repute with the Idumeans also, of which he married a wife who was the daughter of one of the eminent men, and her name was Cyprus, by whom he had 4 sons, Phasael and Herod, who was afterwards made king." Now, quick note here, when it speaks of the Idumeans and Antipater and Herod, who was made king, these are people that are called Idumeans. These are the ancient Romans that were ruling in the days of the Messiah, who the world calls Christ. Okay, so these are the Romans, the same Romans he was talking about making jealous. Okay, you see, they took 30,000 Jews captives. If you read Luke, which we're going to get there, Luke chapter 20, 21, it talks about, Christ talks about people getting taken captives. He's going to fall by the sword. He's talking to Israelites. He ain't talking about Jewish people or Khazarian people. This is talking about black slaves, okay, or actually black brothers that and sisters that was made into slaves that flew from Jerusalem into Africa in 70 AD. Okay, these are people of color. Okay, so you see this is King Herod. All right, I'm gonna read Matthew chapter 2. Okay, because Christ hid in Egypt. Now you got to think, if Christ is the so-called white God that they've been showing us, how does this make sense? I'm gonna read from the scriptures. Okay, And when we were departed, behold, the angel of the Most High appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise, and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed into Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the Most High out of the prophet, saying, Out of Egypt have I called my son. Now, before you think he's Egyptian, I want y'all to go read Isaiah chapter 19. Okay, it speaks of the Messiah. This is the great Savior he spoke about way with Isaiah. This is why when Yashayah stood up in the temple to read, what book did he read from? He read from the book of Isaiah, called Isaiah in the New Testament. Okay, verse 15. And was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken of the Most High by the prophet, saying, Out of Egypt I have called my son. But when Herod, the same Herod Idumea, look this guy up, was dead, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. A Lord of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother to go into the land of Israel, for they are dead which sought the young child's life. It's talking about Herod the Great. Just like Caesar, there were many kings named Herod. You know, they just like you have families where you'll have, you know, Brother Gerald Johnson II, Brother Gerald Johnson III, Brother Gerald Johnson IV. We keep our names going. That was a custom that we had as Israelites. They had the same custom with them. Okay, they kept the name going. Even when they took our culture, they took our names too. We're gonna get into that later. But I'm gonna read more from the I just want to prove to there that Herod the Great was that Idumea, okay, that Roman. It says, as our boat sailed south on the James River, named for our illustrious king, whose version of the Bible we cherish, I saw enough to know that your problem is not unique. While Rome used cords of wood as crosses for standing human bodies along its highways in great numbers, you are here using the tree and the rope on occasion. I caught the whip of a dead slave hanging from a tree. I'm going to stop right here. The same way they killed the Messiah, they killed the slaves. He was lynched, y'all. He was lynched, just like our forefathers was lynched. Just the reason
he died on a cross.
Why they hung us on trees. It wasn't just because it was something, you know, something quote unquote new. This is how the Romans been punishing people of color for centuries, y'all. You understand what I'm saying? This isn't something new. And you got to think there's a million ways you can kill somebody. Wouldn't it be easier just to stab a slave and let him die in the field? Or just they had a gun, right? They had guns in these days. Wouldn't it be easier just to blow his brains out or shoot him up? Why was they hanging us from trees? Because Christ was hung on a tree. I'm going to read. I'm going to keep showing y'all.
Wouldn't take too long shoeing that horse if I was you. Wouldn't take too long. I'd write up Sarah. Wouldn't take too long. Hear Massa? Toby Guinea Man? Hear him tell old Fiddle about making you into some righteous sort of field hand? Lord, you don't even know your name.
48.
Yoke of iron. Look at this.
Nobody fits those scriptures but your brothers.
You told me, and I
Christian pastors.
And I'll rip your black hide if you don't do what I say. You don't know where you're going. You don't know about hoeing no tobacco. You don't know about no Mr. Aim with no whip. You don't know how to talk either. Get on up in there. Go.
Come back to this before we close.
Yeah.
Before we go into Luke, I want to make some comments about how they make these movies. The purpose behind these movies is to instill that same spirit of inferiority and of servitude in These are not simply movies of entertainment. These are messages from these people that rule the world through the movie industry. That nothing has changed. You are still their servants, regardless of how much money and position they may allow you to have in their world. This is not your world yet. This is their world.
Now your world's coming. Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of that which is to come. But until that time comes, my son's right. You are a slave, and you're a slave in your mind yet. Until you
break out of that chain,
that religion you're in, come out of Babylon religion, then you have a chance to understand. But until that time, no.
Luke
14. In the beginning, Josh. And it came to pass, as he went into the house of one of the chief Pharisees to eat bread on the Sabbath day.
On the what?
On the Sabbath day.
Read.
That they watched him. And behold, there was a certain man before him which had the dropsy. And Yashayah answering spake unto the lawyers and Pharisees, saying, Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath day? And they held their peace. And he took him and healed him and let him go. And answered them, saying, Which one of you?
Stop. So Christ healed this person on the Sabbath to show you that his purpose, that the purpose of the Sabbath was not to be some religious day that the Pharisees had made it into. Okay? That's the whole purpose of when Christ was talking, when Christ and his apostles were walking through the fields picking corn on the Sabbath. The Pharisees said to him, No, why are you doing this? Okay? It's the Sabbath. And then Christ said, Well, did not David go into the tabernacle and take the showbread and which was meant for the priest?
Come on.
Okay, so why are you judging me when when you're not judging David? And a greater than David is here.
That's right.
Now he's not saying that the Sabbath is, annulled. He's fulfilling it, meaning he created it. So he should be able to operate in the spirit of it rather than the religious aspect of it. Okay.
That's good, Josh. Which of you shall have an ass or an ox fallen into a pit and will not straightway pull him out on the Sabbath day?
So he's saying, if you have one of your animals in distress on the Sabbath, would you not save it? Read.
And they could not answer him again to these sayings, to these things.
Read.
A lesson to cast and a host, to the guest and a host. And he put forth a parable to those that were bidden, when he marked how they chose out of the chief rooms, saying unto them, When thou art bidden of any man to a wedding, sit not down in the highest room, lest a more honorable man than thou be bidden of him.
So he's saying, don't think of yourself higher than anyone else.
And he that bade thee, and him come and say to thee, Give this man place, and thou begin with shame to take the lowest room. But when thou art bidden, go and sit down in the lowest room, that when he that bade thee cometh, he may say unto thee, Friend, go up higher, then shalt thou have worship in the presence of them that sit at meat with thee. For whosoever exalteth himself shall be abased, and he that humbleth himself shall be exalted.
And And that goes very well with the way we started with the video. See, through this society, the children of Israel have been taught to obey, exalt, to follow the people, the oppressor, have exalted above everybody, giving them millions of dollars and all this stuff, different things. When these people aren't for you, these people are giving these people this money to make them slave for more. Like in Timothy, where it talks about making for the love of money is the root of all evil. And those who covet after or covenant after it pierce themselves through with many sorrows, right? So when you look at it biblically, the more money you give somebody, the more they're willing to serve and slave. And you can't serve two masters. That's what Christ said in Matthew 6, 24. So you can't serve one and this other at the same time, because the one will eventually tear you away from the other. Like you can't follow the Most High and a religion, because the Most High contradicts what man has made up. Okay?
That's right.
So, and that also goes into the more of what we were just discussing. The brother was bringing out on the video I chose to share with y'all today about the Willie Lynch syndrome. How the slave master would always pick a slave out of the bunch, a couple of them, and put them with him in the house. Now, he was still a slave, but he started to think of himself, think of it like the movie Django with Jamie Foxx and the old house slave. How much he hated Jamie Foxx. Now, they were both slaves, but he felt because he had more position, he had a right to look down on another slave.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So that's the same paradigm they set up. They want you to look down, look up to the people they've put in their house, while you toil in the field and slave and have nothing, and make you think that by looking at who they've set up in front of you, that makes you feel like you've achieved something, when those people that they put in front of you had to do a lot more wicked things behind closed doors to maintain the position they have. They just don't get that position and money to get it. They have to do wicked things after wicked things
to be born into that evil. That's right.
To maintain the position they have. They just don't get the position for free.
That's right.
Verse 10.
No, 15.
15.
No, you're right, 10. Right. Or 14. And thou shalt be blessed for the... Oh, is it 10, Josh? I thought we read further than that. Yeah, we're further than that. Okay. 12. Well, yeah. 13, 12, Tony?
I think it's 12.
Then said he also to him that bade him, when thou makest a dinner or a supper, call not thy friends, nor thy brethren, neither thy kinsmen, nor thy rich neighbors, lest they also bid thee again, and a recompense be made thee. But when thou makest a feast, call the poor, the maimed, the lame, the blind, and thou shalt be blessed. For they cannot recompense thee, for thou shalt be recompensed at the resurrection of the just. That's awesome.
So what he's saying is, call all the people that no one wants, right? Because you're going to call the rich, you're going to call your friends, your blood. But he's saying, take care of the people no one wants first. Because in reality, that's how the Negro and the children of Israel, hold on, let me show y'all something and go back to the Bible right fast. So that's how the children of Israel are in this land. They're poor, they're diseased, because they prefer to trust the same people that brought them here as a slave. So you bring, it's sad to say, but it's true, you bring your own whip upon yourself.
That's right.
By repeating the past.
You love the oppressor.
You bring the whip upon yourself. God, the Most High, doesn't want you to be beat down, but you bring it upon yourself, because you prefer to follow the people that oppress you rather than leaving them and cleaving to your own. Okay? That easy to understand?
Yep.
Verse
15. And when one of them that sat at meat with him heard these things, he said unto him, Blessed is he that shall eat bread in the kingdom of Ahayah. Then said he unto him, A certain man made a great supper, and bade many, and sent his servant at supper time to say to them that were bidden, Come, for all things are now ready. And they all with one consent began to make excuse. The first said unto him, I have bought a piece of ground, and I must needs go and see it.
Now, what did Christ say in Luke? In Luke 9, he said, if you put your hand to the plow, in other words, if I call you, don't start to make excuses.
That's right.
You know, my family this, my family that. Don't put your hand to the plow and look back.
Right.
Because this call is going to eventually cost you everything you hold dear, even your life eventually. So you can't hold nothing dear at all in this life because it's worthless.
That's our dog. Then said he unto him, A certain man made it, and sent his servant at supper time to say to them that were bidden, For all things are now ready, and they all with one excuse. First said unto him, I am bought a piece of ground, and must needs to go see it. I pray thee, have me excused. And another said, I have bought 5 yoke of oxen, and I go to prove them. I pray thee, have me excused. And another said, I have married a wife, and therefore I cannot come. So that servant came and showed his most high Lord these things. Then the master of the house, being angry, said to the servant, Go out quickly into the streets and lanes of the city, and bring in hither the poor, and the maimed, and the halt, and the blind.
So now this is the condition of the children of Israel in America.
Come on.
They're blind spiritually. They're halt. They're lame.
That's right.
They can't see where they're going.
Come on.
Why? Because they have begun to trust in, or they've trusted in, their oppressor instead of, saying, we have everything the world wants. Let's separate and let everyone come to us. We have the best actors, the best athletes, the best women. Let everyone, if everyone wants to come after us, separate, make our own community.
And you had at one time, right, Josh? They had the Wall Street, right? The Black Wall Street. And the 22, and the servant said, Lord, it is done as thou hast commanded, and yet there is room. And the Lord said unto his servant, Go out into the highways and hedges, and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled.
So he's saying, since the people want to make excuses like everyone else, go find the people no one wants.
Come on.
And bid them to come, because they'll come, because they know they need help.
For I say unto you, that none of these men which were bidden shall taste of my supper. Wow.
Hold on, Dad.
So many are called.
You were chosen, Dad.
That's right.
Hold on. Say something right fast.
This is a good lesson. It's going to be short tonight. It's Wednesday night. But, you know, we don't ever put a time on our ministry. Please send your donations to josh.lavio@yahoo.com. We need to be supported here so we can move on in this ministry. We don't ask anyone to tithe. We don't believe in tithing. But you can send whatever you can send each month without hurting your income. Please do so. Thank you. Okay, 23.
23.
The cost of discipleship.
Mm-hmm.
And there went great multitudes with him, and he turned and said unto them, if any man come to me and hate not his father and mother. Now, hate means
love them more.
To honor him more than the Most High.
Now he's saying, like I was saying, we have been taught in this world to put everything, and that's not to say your family doesn't matter, but they can't redeem or save you. Okay?
That's right.
What's your priority? Where's your priorities?
Mm-hmm.
So if your priorities are wrong, you can't serve Christ. That's because right. You'll put your priorities first.
Come on. And there went great multitudes with him, and he turned and said unto them, if any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, and his own life. You know that scripture, love your life more, you lose it.
He cannot be my disciple.
He cannot be my disciple.
So again, that's not saying don't love your family.
He's not saying that.
Because, you know, Christ made the family. God designed the family.
The Most High's got to be first and foremost. Then your family.
Right? So this is not saying don't love your family.
Right.
Who do you love first?
Right.
Is what Christ is saying. Because I want you to love your family, but don't let your family separate you from me.
Now, isn't that true when we tell the Afro-Americans they're Hebrews? And what's their response? Well, what about my family that's in church? And what about them? Are you going to let them stop you from going to heaven? I mean to making the kingdom?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're saying.
That's the same problem because you've gotten so conditioned to one setting.
Come on.
And your family, and that's not bad. And your friends are there.
Right.
So you feel
there's nothing wrong with that.
You'll feel that instant feeling of isolation, like you're the only one.
Because who told you you have to leave your church to have truth? No, you don't. You've got to deal with your pastors that are not telling you the truth and face them, and then maybe things can get straightened out and you can stay there.
If the past, now this is a miracle. Watch this. If you get the truth and say you're a deacon in the church and you're listening and you're receiving it, and then you go to your pastor and he receives it, then maybe the whole church will change, turn over. But see, that's a miracle in itself because you have to change everything you teach.
Mm-hmm.
You have to change everything. You have to really change everything you've gotten used to. And see, a lot of people are afraid of change. That's why they don't want to. They're afraid of doing things right. You know, keeping the Sabbath, not eating as if changing one day, changing Sunday to the Sabbath, which the Saturday is the Sabbath, not Sunday. Sunday is a Roman Catholic, Babylonian, pagan sun worship day.
Right. That's right.
That's what it is. Regardless of that, how that may make you feel or think, get mad, but that's the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So you can't be afraid of your family. You can't be afraid of your friends. They cannot save you.
Mm-hmm. Come on.
You have to work out your own. So, see, that's another thing people really haven't been taught to do is really work your own salvation out because you start tying in all your emotions and feelings to other people. They can't save you.
Right, and you're hanging out and worshiping idolatry,
not
worship
on
Sunday.
Then you start to make excuses
for it.
There
you go. That's right.
Just like the people that Christ tried to bring first to the supper. But they said, I have to do this, this, and that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We just read it.
Josh. That's right.
So it's the same thing today. People want to make excuses.
A brother did that to me in the gym. You know what he told me? He says, well, you know, I'll try to make it.
So
I said, well, you know what, brother? I love you, but it's your loss, not mine.
So Christ had to deal with the same thing we have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Same attitudes in people, lackadaisical,
mm-hmm.
nonchalant, careless and nonchalant.
That's right.
The door is closing, people. You got to get in the ark where you can.
You know that scripture, the door is shut to the door. He shut the door on you. That's what's going to happen.
And if they don't receive and you receive this truth, dust your feet off.
That's it.
It'd be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah in that day than for that person or that place.
That's right.
So you just got to get the attitude of, it doesn't matter what people think. I'm going to follow the Most High. Right? So where are we? I'll read a little bit. And whosoever doth not hate bear his cross and come after me,
the cross means
cannot
it's really his suffering. He didn't suffer
my disciple.
That's
in other words, if you can't bear the teachings of Christ, don't deal with it.
That's right. You cannot be my disciple.
No, you can be.
You cannot.
For which of you, read,
intending to build a tower, sit it not down first and count it the cost.
So what he's saying is, before you pick up this truth, really stop to consider what you're doing.
Wow.
Read.
Whether he have sufficient to finish it.
So if you're not sufficient, don't deal with the truth. In other words, if you're not man enough or woman enough to walk away from your family, to stop eating, doing Christmas, Easter,
rituals, that's right,
all this stuff,
pagan holidays,
stay where you're at, because, and that's not saying that you're not sufficient, but if you cannot bear people not liking you, this isn't for you.
That's right. Least happily, after he had finished it, all that behold it again to mock him, finish it all. Finish it, all that behold it began to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish.
Mm-hmm. Read.
Or what king going to make war against another king sitteth not down first and consulteth it, whether he is able with 10,000 to meet him that cometh against him with 20,000?
So rulers just don't go into war without considering the cost of life.
That's right.
Everything costs in life is what Christ is saying. So consider it. Don't nonchalantly accept something you can't bear. Read.
Or else, while the other is yet a great way off, he sendeth an embassage and desireth conditions of peace.
Read.
So likewise, whosoever he be of you that forsaketh not all that he hath, he cannot be my disciple.
There it is again. So
it's
Christ,
so plain. It's plain.
Christ is saying,
right there,
if you want to truly follow me, everything it's going to cost. So
you're not going to be liked.
Consider
You're not going to be liked by people. There's people that I know that don't even want to look at me when I go to the gym, and I don't even care. Because you know what? I've come over that a long time ago, even when I was a Christian. And when I left Christianity, I realized that this was the true walk I'm really in, and I'm really hated now. I mean, I was disliked in Christianity, but now I'm really hated. But you're going to be hated. Anybody who has the truth, look, listen, folks. The disciples, what, how many, Tony? 12?
No.
They turned the world upside down, and they were all martyred for their faith. What faith? Keeping the Sabbath, keeping the holy days.
Read.
Tasteless salt. Salt is good, But if the salt hath lost his savor, wherewith shall it be seasoned? It is neither fit for the land, nor yet for the dunghill. But men cast it out. He that hath ears to hear, let him hear.
So that was a good chapter.
Yeah, real good. Real good. Awesome, Josh. So we're going to come back to the video.
I might read another scripture, but we're gonna finish. We're gonna watch some
I
more
see
of
the
this.
yoke of iron on this Hebrew's neck.
And you on a wagon. This is the wagon. You say wagon. You say wagon. Wagon. Good, Jenny man. Now, Master give you a new name too. Master say you name Toby. That's who you is, yeah? Toby. As fiddler. 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 Because I played for the Christmas and the Jubilee. Sarah's fiddler, that's me. And you say Toby. Kunta Kinte. Oh, no, that's your African name. Master give you a new name. Master say you name.
You see?
Now, in reality,
you see the brainwashing now?
What was going on was
Tell them, Josh.
they would give you a new name over your tribal name.
And you know what he was really saying in real life? Your name is not Judah. Your name is Toby.
Exactly. They would try to take away his heritage.
They only did that in the movie to hide their lies.
So see, they couldn't put what really was. See, they know what was being said back then. So they had to be crafty about it.
That's right.
And hide what they were trying to really put.
Mm-hmm.
Cancel out of your mind.
Because this was after the Woolly Lynch, right?
Toby! What's the matter with you? Cut me loose. Kunta Kinte. You Africans all alike. Crazy. Must have said your name is Toby. That's who you is.
Okay, it says a couple miles back, you are not only losing valuable stock by hangings, you are having uprising. Slaves are running away. Your crops are sometimes left in the field too long for maximum profit. You suffer occasional fires. Your animals are killed. So this just shows again that the slaves was running away, and it says key word, they were valuable stock. For y'all that don't know, y'all can research this. Look at the Dow and the Dow Jones. Look at the stock market. The Dow Jones is the highest companies that make money on the stock market. When you go back and do your research from Chase Bank and on, right, you'll find out that all these companies had their first institution of wealth came from slaves. It didn't come from an investor or this and that. And even if it did come from an investor, that investor was getting money.
Now, if you, like the brother said, research, Wall Street was in a slave market before it became the financial center of the earth. So all those companies on, the rich places like Merrill Lynch, Tiffany's, all those places they got their money off of the slave trade. That's how New York built itself up into a financial power in the earth, like Fifth Avenue, Dirt Avenue, Avenues of America. All that money came from the slave trade. So they didn't just get rich overnight. They built that money over hundreds of years of trading your people. So it's a reality. It's sad, but it's the truth. Every bit of American society was built off of slavery, and they're still building it off of slavery today.
That's right. Who's here in America today? Mexicans. They're slaves. They're taking all the work from everybody in America, and they're doing it for nothing.
Money off of slaves. If you know anything about a business, when you start in a business, you have to have an investor. You want to buy a building? Who's your investor? You want to do XYZ? Who's your investor? Okay, so second thing, he says, our king, talking about King James. King James was a black man. Okay, that's first of all. King James was not a white guy, a white gay guy, as they like to say, right? Okay, he was a black man, just like King Stewart. You can look this up. We ruled in a time period like they like to call the Dark Ages. They called this time the Dark Ages because dark people was ruling. We ruled England and Europe for 1,000 years. This is called the Dark Ages, ladies and gentlemen. So King James started to see in that time toward the end of his reign in the early 1600s that the Catholic Church was basically translating the Bible. They had their hands on our scroll. They were translating it into.
Look at this, everybody. So we just learned some interesting information. The Dark Ages was named Dark Ages by the white Europeans because Negroes, Israelites, was ruling during that time in Europe. Okay, in the world, for that matter, for the Renaissance, when they took Europe back, on the white man did.
Latin and Latin only. Okay, it wasn't like today where you have all these places you can go pick up a Bible. Back then it was very limited. So what they were doing, they were translating the Bible into Latin. When they were doing that because the Catholic Church to this day speaks Latin. They pray, believe it or not, to the god Lucifer, which is Satan. It's a false deity, the fallen one. They pray to him in Latin. Okay, when they do that, they do that because this has been their custom. They know that not a lot of people understand Latin. See, I've studied Latin. Okay, not probably deep as others, but I have studied it. I thought it was the original language. Find out the original language actually is Hebrew. Okay, but the thing about it is, with that Latin, people didn't understand it. So when they was reading verses and they had their limited understanding and they didn't understand what the Bible was saying, they would come to the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church, being the printers of the Bible, the holders of the Bible, they would tell the people what it said with their own philosophy on it through the Jesuits and all these satanic priests that they had. So people would get their understanding from them. What King James was doing, he didn't write the Bible, he translated it. He authorized the translation of being the king. So when he authorized the translation, which he wasn't the first one, but he was the major one. Because you'll find the Tyndale Bible happened before him, which he was burned at the stake. King James came and translated it. And people had it in English, so then they can do their own interpretations and reading, which is not their own interpretation, but the correct interpretation and seeing what the scripture said. So this is why you see them doing things like the erasing of history. Okay, they like to erase history and then put on their own history. Okay, they do this over and over again. Okay, just like they did with Yashayah. Yashayah, you read Revelation chapter 1, it describes a man that's so black he looked like he was burned in the furnace with wool hair. It doesn't match this guy that they show us, which is Caesar Borgia, which is Alexander VI, Pope Alexander VI's fourth son, who was a homosexual. Okay, this white guy is Caesar Borgia. Okay, so now you see right here this Jewish rabbi, because the Jewish people, the so-called Jews of today, their forefathers, not them, but their forefathers financed the slave trade. This is why you might see in old paintings or old pictures, people might say, you see a sign that says no Jews, and then they use that to say, oh, well.
So, yes. And this is all over the internet. Jewish people, the elite Jewish people that ran the earth back in the day, financed the slave trade. That was Jewish ships, Jewish plantations, Jewish captains. Okay, this is not a myth. These people are the ones who brought you here on slave ships. These were not white, what we call European Christians. These were Jewish people. See, by not telling you who is running the slave ships and the plantations, they can push the white-black narrative and pin races against each other. Okay?
Jews were discriminated against too. No, the reason they were angry at the Jews because the Jews were charging them, for my forefathers, charging them extra, how they were they were basically controlling the slave trade, how they control the markets today. They want you to pay more. You have to pay more. Where you gonna go? You got to go to them, right? Again, you see here the King Harad family. Okay, I'm gonna jump into this video real quick to show you guys the Moors, and you can see when we ruled Europe.
Hello. Oh, my God, a blackamoor. I've only seen your kind in paintings. And goodbye. Who knows? I might even become familiar with them myself. That'll be one more reason for me to kill you. Oh, yes, Mr. West, I'm sure to it, no doubt. Well endowed blackamoor like yourself, it must seem absolutely impossible that a freak like me could fully enjoy the pleasure of a woman. But having witnessed my use of mechanology thus far, wouldn't you think that I could devise something for the lower half of my body that was hard and indefatigably? Curse on Moors and Saracens. Not for their ungodly ways, Master Robin would never have left. What manner of name is Azim? Irish? Cornish? Moorish. You might want to take a chill pill. You do. This is a hell of a setup. I'm not lying. Woo, you got to have major coins behind us. Who's backing you? Buffy? Silence more.
Okay, now right here, you see in this Russian, this is a book called The Russian Icons. Over there on the, if you notice, for my brothers that travel, that there's not as much racism. Not to say that you don't experience any racism, because you absolutely do, but it's not as heavy as it is in America. I met people from all over the world that came to America, and they'll tell me the racism here is ridiculous. Not that they don't experience it, of course, in other areas, but it's on a different level here. Okay, and they know other countries more truth than we know. They know more history than we know. They know more math than we know. I mean, I've covered this in the past that basically, if you look at the U.S. on the numbers of what they're doing knowledge-wise, it's nowhere near touching these other nations. The other nations also have the real history of the Black Christ, the Black disciples, the Black people of the Bible. You don't have to even go into all this. If you don't believe the people of the Bible are Black, all you gotta do is go watch my video about the hairstyles in the Bible. The hairstyles were locks and plaits and woolly hair. So, I mean, it's plain as day, plain as noonday. So you see here, the hanging on a tree was a curse. Okay, hanging on a tree was a curse of Deuteronomy 28. Okay, you can go look that up in scripture. When you hung on a tree, that was a curse. So you see these pictures here. Now, when you get into this picture, here's the third one. You see that they have a beam. This is the beam. This beam that's on the ground, I have highlighted here in red. This is the beam that Christ was carrying. Okay, I need y'all to really lock in and understand it. This is what he was carrying, and this was placed on a tree, hammered to a tree, and then he was hammered to that beam. So that beam on the tree made the T symbol. Okay, you see here the whip. Okay, so this is what the Romans, the Idumeans, have been using to oppress and conquer the Israelite nations. Okay, so it says here, we keep reading, all right? Gentlemen, you know what your problems are. I do not need to elaborate. I am not here to enumerate your problems. I am here to introduce you to a method of solving them. In my bag here, I have a foolproof method for controlling your Black slaves. I guarantee every one of you that if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. Keep game, y'all. My method is simple. Any member of your family or your overseer can use it. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves and make the differences bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control. I'm going to read that last part again. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves and make the differences bigger. Black people, are you with me? Okay. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control. All right. So I'm gonna run this video real quick. Okay, it is Joe's Crab Shack. I'm gonna run this video real quick about Joe's Crab Shack. Think about Joe's Crab Shack. This isn't anything old. This video wasn't from 60 years ago. You know what I'm saying? This video is pretty brand new. But I want y'all to really peep what's being said here. All right.
I'm scrolling down the book and I see an article about a Joe's Crab Shack. Didn't know it was from 2016 because everybody's still talking about it. But I see this article, so I go to it, I look at it, and it's a lynching. Right, so I'm like, well, you know, what does lynching got to do with a restaurant, especially a big franchise like Joe's Crab Shack? And as I read, I find out that this actual picture was embedded in the table. Like, you know how you put how they put pictures in tables and then they gloss over the top of it so you can actually eat on top of it, spill on top of it, nothing was damaged to the picture. So I ain't no telling how long this picture been there, probably as long as Joe's Crab Shack been there. And it wasn't just one picture, you know, it was graffiti, like, you know, in the tables all over the restaurant, from what I hear, historical pictures and stuff like that. One was a lynching, one had a picture. If you look at the caption, you'll actually see the pictures I'm posting. And I'm outraged from this, right? Because I actually have my own food truck, you know, restaurant or whatever you might want to call it. And what outraged me wasn't just that, you know, that these people had the audacity, these white folks had the audacity to put some shit like that on the table where we got to eat it, you know, and fuck up a nigga appetite. What outraged me is so many niggas that eat at this fucking spot, right? And nobody's seen that, right? Nobody ever seen these fucking pictures. And I'm pretty sure they all over Joe's Crab Shack. Every one of them motherfuckers probably got that because, you know, management can't just do that. You feel me? That shit came from up top. You feel me? That's how these racist ass white people feel, right? But what outraged me is this niggas that work there. Nobody ever said nothing about that, right? Because that's how niggas is. You feel me? We'll go out and we'll support these white establishments and then get outraged when these motherfuckers don't like us. You feel me? Tommy Hilfiger, Cristal, all these big ass companies that don't like us, don't respect us. You get what I'm trying to say? And what outraged me, right? You know what I'm saying, is that, you know, Tyrone Williams and Chantel Allen actually had to experience that shit, had to have their appetite fucked up. But in the first place, that they were there. You know what I'm saying? All these black seafood spots that we don't support, right? All these black restaurants and black-owned businesses that we don't support, but yet we take our money to these white folks, right? And if you ask me, all that shit do is promote, you know what I'm saying, slavery, really, to tell you the truth. You know what I'm saying? We go out.
Okay, I want to read something to y'all before we close out of the Apocrypha.
Yeah, Josh. The meat's up there, Tony Teller, right?
Yep.
A good lesson, Josh. That was really good today.
This is the Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 10. Let us oppress the poor righteous man. Let us not spare the widow, or give reverence to the ancient gray hair of the old. Let our strength be the law of justice. For that which is feeble is is found to be nothing worth. So they don't value, as the brother was pointing out, they don't value you to the point where in certain restaurants, they'll put these things up where black people go as if they're not supposed, and that goes into the programming of Willie Lynch syndrome. You have been taught to depend on their education and not educate your own self, your own people on how to survive independent of them. Okay?
Close the door. Go ahead, Josh.
I want to show you something again right here. All
right, Patrick, your application approved on your application approved. What's this, man?
Now this is going into the certain things they gave you during slavery. Watch this. This is now this is the reason they had to remove the Apocrypha and make it seem like it's not scriptural or inspired. Close the door. Wisdom of Solomon 13. Now, wait. Now, taking the very refuse from among those which serve to no use, being a crooked piece of wood, full of knots, and hath carved it diligently, and when he had nothing better to do, he formed it by the skill of his understanding, and fashioned it in the image of a man. Now, what is this talking about? What things that are fashioned? Now, of course, some people still do it. This is talking about crosses, which says a boger on it, okay? So, this is another tradition that was given to you during slavery. The slave masters made sure they gave you the cross, okay?
Go ahead, John. Good.
Or made it like a vile beast, laying it over with beryllium, which is paint, and painting, coloring it red, and covering every spot thereon.
I got a sense that hi, Pat, your application has been approved.
When he had made a convenient room for it, he set it in a wall and made it fast with iron. And he provided that it might not fall, knowing that it was not able to help itself, for it is an image who cannot help itself. Then he maketh prayer. Then he maketh prayer for his goods, his wife and children, and is not ashamed to pray to that which hath no life. So they taught you during slavery to pray to their images that they gave you.
That's
okay?
right.
That's why there's crosses and idols all over your churches.
And you're still doing it. You're looking at that cross,
So
those idols.
you pray to something that has no life, okay? Okay? Christ is not dead on a cross. He is alive.
Come on.
Okay? He hath that he called upon which is weak, for life to that which is dead, for aid humbly beseeches that which cannot which hath least means to help.
Mhm.
And for a good journey he asketh of that which cannot set a foot forward. And going and getting and good success of his he asketh ability to do of him that cannot, that is most unable to do anything.
Stop. No, I want to add some. That's good, Josh. I want to add this. Why, if this is not true what Josh is reading, then why are all your churches under attack in America, in the world? People are falling by the wayside all over the place. That white Christ does not protect anyone. That idolatry Christ and that cross does not protect anyone. You stop wasting your time praying to that white Christ because he's not listening. Anybody who bows down, right, Josh, to idolatry is in trouble.
So, one more thing, everybody. This is 2nd Ezra 8:6-8-9. And he said unto me, behold, said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Isaac and Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand took hold of Esau, of the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world.
That's right. His days are coming now. Numbered.
And Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So what does that mean? Esau is ruling at the end of the time.
Right now he is. That's all.
Esau controls the earth financially, politically, economically, militarily.
Through the Rothschilds.
Okay. Now, Jacob, the children of Israel are next to come. That's why they want you to follow after them so you can claim what belongs to you.
So actually, what the world wants you to do is to worship Satan.
Right?
That's right. That's what it comes down to.
That was a good lesson.
Real good, Josh.
We do thank and praise the Most High for that lesson. We do ask you to subscribe to us. I mean, it's clear. You got to wake up, like people say, smell the coffee before it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
Shalom.
Shalom.